welcome back to my channel. I'm the City Witch. Today's video I'm going to be teaching you how to read the flame of a candle that you've just cast a spell upon. So in this video I'm going to be concentrating mainly on flames, and a little bit I'm going to go into 7-day chart candles as well, and I'm also going to go into reading some smoke and ash on a candle, but I'm not going to do a wax divination. I'm going to do that in a separate video because I feel like I want to show you some examples and try and give you guys a chance to read some wax for yourselves and tell me what you see in one that I present to you. So there are 3 types of divination, as I've said, and usually to get a full picture on how your spell is going to manifest, you would use all 3 techniques for a full divination. So you would first read the flame, because that is the first thing you are able to read right after you finish casting. You would then read any smoke or any ash that was being produced by the candle, and then last you would read the wax. So that would give you a full picture, but some people are unable to do that or are better at reading one form or another, so they don't necessarily do them all. I tend to do them all, especially when I'm working for a client, to give me a better idea of how the spell is going to manifest and what I need to keep an eye out for. So one of the things I want to mention at this point is the type of candles that you can use. So there are a number of different types of candles out there, ranging from tea lights, dinner candles, birthday candles, all the way up to massive gigantic pillar candles, and of course your 7-day jar candles. So logically speaking, a lot of the candles that you choose for your witchcraft are going to give you some insight as to how long they will burn for. So if you read the packaging on any candles that you buy, it will often give you a burning time. So it'll say like 8 hours worth of burning time, or 20 hours worth of burning time, and you know roughly how long that candle logically should burn for. So you need to be prepared for that. So you need to say, normally this candle burns for 20 hours, so I need to allow for that time in order for this spell to finish manifesting, because I've put all the energy intent into a candle that says it burns for 20 hours. But if that candle burns faster than 20 hours, that's a sign of quicker manifestation for your spell. So your spell has actually speeded things on and has actually caused the candle to burn at a faster rate. If actually the candle takes longer than the 20 hours that initially said on the packaging, now I wouldn't say, if it's a few hours longer, I wouldn't count that. But if you're talking 3 or 4 days longer, then your spell is actually going to manifest really, really slowly, and actually has struggled. So that is one way that you can tell. Another thing as well to consider is if you're looking at a candle and considering it for a spell, and you know it's going to take 20 hours to burn, you need to think logically, can I put that time into that? Meaning that you don't just cast your spell and walk away. I mean, I hope you don't do that, because you should be watching your candles, and obviously fire safety is a thing, guys. So really, strictly speaking, you need to say to yourself, okay, I'm casting my spell on this day. You do all your planning and prepping and stuff, and you cast your spell. And the candle's going to take 20 hours. How are you going to manage that? Because we all have lives and responsibilities, so that's something you need to consider a little bit here. So when I have a candle that's quite big and is going to take a certain length of time to burn, so 20 hours, I would probably at least want to burn that candle for 4 hours each day, in order for it to kind of be finished. And as I'm a business person as well, and obviously my business is witchcraft, I can't afford to have an altar space taken up for a ridiculous length of time. So I can't have that candle going for like 2 weeks. That would just be ridiculous. I need to make sure that I can have that candle going for like 4 to 8 hours a day in order for it to be finished in 2 or 3 days time, so I can cleanse the altar and move on to casting my next client's spell. So that's how I work. But you, if you're, homeowner, and this isn't your business, and you're just casting a spell for yourself, you might have a comfortable space in your home that you can light the candle for, say, 2 hours every day and just keep going like that until it's done, and that's fine. Obviously, it's better to leave your candle going, and the belief is that you should try and snuff it as little as possible. So if it's going to be 20 hours, you might want to say to yourself, right, I'm going to have it lit for no less than 5 hours over the course of 4 days, and knowing that you're aiming for it to be done in 4 days, controlling how long that candle is going to burn for. Now, the reason you would choose a big candle, guys, is because a big candle can obviously absorb and hold more energy than a smaller candle. So if you want something quite desperately in your life and it's something quite important to you, you're probably going to put as much power and energy intent into that as you possibly can. So bigger candles can absorb and take more energy, which means you can charge them for longer and put more intent into them, which means they'll have more power and oomph to them down the line. But you need to be able to dedicate the time into that after you've finished casting it, and you need to be able to give it the time it needs to burn. So just think about which candles you're using a little bit, and this isn't to say that using a tea light is going to be, crap and, not have any power behind it. It is going to have power behind it, and obviously they burn for, roughly anywhere between 4 to 8 hours, depending on the tea light quality you get. So it's going to burn for a decent amount of time. You just need to know that a bigger candle can absorb more energy. So a tea light can still absorb a decent amount of energy. It can still have impact, and it can still work with a spell quite fine. I've done loads of tea light spells with great powerful success, but a bigger candle can hold more energy. So I do tend to use dinner candles more than anything. They're kind of my favourite go-to because they have a certain amount of time for burning, and it's quite a reasonable amount of time as well, and they are bigger than a tea light or a birthday candle or something, and they can hold a fair decent amount of energy to them. So that's my favourite go-to. But I also work with pillar candles, especially when I'm trying to do road openers, because you're trying to smash and destroy whatever's in your path, so you want that to have a decent amount of impact. And then obviously there's a clue in the name for the 7-day candles or 14-day candles. They should burn for 7 days or 14 days. So with the jar candles, obviously, as I say, there's a clue in the title. It should burn for 7 days. These are popular for spell work because they are safe, because they're in a glass jar. So often you can leave a room for a little bit of time and leave it burning quite safely, especially if you don't have kids or pets to interfere with it. If a jar candle burns down faster than its allotted time, so 7 days, and it actually burns in 5 days, that's a real good sign for quick manifestation. If it burns longer, again, that's a sign of slower manifestation. So actually, candles that have a specific time frame on them and say they burn for a certain amount of time, or they're supposed to burn for a certain amount of time, is a good way to tell how quick your spell is going to manifest. Also as well, jar candles are designed for long-term workings. So each day that your 7-day jar candle burns for is actually equivalent to a month. So you're talking 7 months to manifest something, 14 months on a 14-day candle. And I know that sounds crazy, and everyone out there is going, what? But you're talking about something you want to manifest that's going to be long lasting and stay in your life forever. So if this is marriage or a partner or a commitment, then yes, you're going to want a 7-day jar candle, because you want that to be something that lasts in your life and sticks forever. And okay, you have to wait a little bit, but isn't it going to be worth it for the end result? So again, choosing the candles, choosing the intent, and thinking about what the spell is going to be for and what you want it to do is quite important. And then just planning things carefully. So knowing that you need to put a certain amount of time into things, and that you may have to snuff and relight. But again, making sure you're snuffing and relighting and not blowing out the candle is important. Blowing out the candle blows away the energy. That's not what you want. That being said, let's talk about the flames. So there's quite a bit of information I'm going to cover, and I'm going to be as quick as I possibly can. So bear with me, guys. So the first type of flame we're going to talk about is a tall, strong flame. So if your flame is tall, it's strong, it's bright, it's vibrant, this is a sign that your spell is empowered, it's powerful, it's strong, and it is getting through, and it's going to be a successful manifestation. So that is brilliant. Fan Dabby Zozy as far as I'm concerned. If your flame is tiny and it's blue, and it looks like it's about to die a sad death, I'm sorry guys, but there is interference. This is a sign of obstacles. So obstacles range greatly, and I'm going to cover as many of them as I possibly can, but I'm not going to explain them, because I think you should probably research them, or watch some of my other videos. But obstacles include protections, either on yourself or on the target of the spell, that is stopping any spell work. So, obviously there are charms and amulets out there that block witchcraft. So if you're casting on someone else, that amulet or charm may have kicked in that's blocked it. Another thing to consider as well is that they've had, if they're a magical practitioner, they may have cast protections upon themselves that is blocking your work, or someone else is a witch or a magical practitioner in their life, and they've cast protections on their family members or people they care about, and that is blocking it. So protections is definitely one. Another one to consider is other people's spells working against you. So this can either be somebody that's cast a spell upon you and it's affecting what you're trying to do, or it can be someone else who's cast a spell to block or stop or prevent your magic from affecting this person that you're working upon. Or another possibility is that the spell that you've cast, especially if it's on someone else is also casting on that same person, or in order to manifest something different to you, but their spell has took root before yours and therefore is causing yours to fail or not get through properly. Another thing as well to consider is the will of the person. So sometimes people are truly stubborn and narcissistic, and just magic just doesn't work very well on them. It's just a fact of life, guys. So that can have an impact. So all of these things are potential blockages. Another thing to consider as well that I should have probably mentioned when I mentioned the protections is if they've got a protection spell on them that's more deflective, that anything that you cast towards them, especially if it's negative, is going to come straight back to you because it's been deflected back to you. And as it's your energy, your own protections and barriers are not going to block it because it's recognised as your own energy. So it's like your own energy coming home to roost as far as anybody else is concerned. So if it is a curse or something negative that you're doing, you really need to think about that, because you need to make sure that that energy, that spell, isn't going to come back to you. So you need to seal that spell in some way that says it's going to die if it doesn't hit its target, rather than it come back to you. So even if they deflect it, it's going to just kind of disappear. It's going to get recycled in the universe around you, and it's not going to manifest or hit you. Also, as a disclaimer, if you are going to do anything like that, just make sure you're absolutely sure before you free something like that, and make sure you do your research on your target as well, because especially if they are another magical practitioner, because you know every magical practitioner uses various forms of protections and different techniques to keep themselves safe from people like you trying to do something negative. So just be wary of that, and just make sure you do your research and everything, and make sure you're safe at the same time, because the last thing you want is to screw up your own life because you're trying to screw up someone else's. That's not logical, guys. So just be careful there. So small bloom flame means interference, and if it doesn't go out and it stays small and blue the whole time, more than likely your spell has gotten through, but it's struggled and it's had to work through so much that it's so weak that it's probably not going to have any, if at all, any impact. So just, so you may have to recast, you may have to reinforce that, or you may have to come at the situation differently or do some divination. If it's a small blue flame and it actually goes out, whatever obstacle was in its path has overcome your spell and destroyed it. So therefore you will need to recast, guys. It is a spell failure. If the flame remains tiny blue but then grows to big, your spell has managed to break through those obstacles and overcome what was blocking it and will manifest. But it might take a bit longer because it's took all that time to get through those those barriers that were blocking it in order for it to start working and doing what you want. And also because it's had to work through that, it might have been weakened as well. So you may need to back it up with some more energy. If it's the other way around and say it's a tall, strong flame to begin with, but then it starts to go to a small-ish flame, what you're looking at is initially when you cast the spell, everything was fan-dabby-dozy, everything was getting through, and then some outside force is now taking effect and blocking it. So that could be someone else working against you, as in they're aiming at the target of the spell. It could be that they felt what you were doing, or some psychic told them, oh, someone's casting spells on you, so they've now put in some form of protection which has blocked the last part of the spell, meaning again it's not going to manifest the way you want because half the energy has been blocked. So again, divination is going to be your best friend in these circumstances. So logically watching the flame and seeing how it changes and develops and what happens with it is going to give you loads of insights. So let's say your flame goes out. Now, I can already hear a lot of you going to panic stations and going, oh, my spell's completely failed. Let's not panic. First of all, let's think about this logically. Humans are flawed, and therefore anything we make can be flawed. So it is very likely the first thing you should check is that the candle is not faulty. So I've encountered a number of candles that I bought from very brilliant companies, reputable sellers and creators, and I've cast spells and for whatever reason the candle has just been faulty, and that's ranged from air bubbles within the wax that's created problems and it's caused the flame to go out. It's dodgy wicks that are a bit cheap and tacky that have flopped and then they've gone inside the wax and then they've snuffed themselves out. And my personal favourite, the wick was so bad that during the process of making the candle, the wick became severed or broke part inside the candle, and then obviously as it's burned down it's got to that bit where it's broken, it's stopped, because as far as the candle's concerned, I have no more wick, so it's gone out. But then the wick is further down, so then you might have to dig it out a little bit in order to carry that on. Now it doesn't mean the spell's failed because the wick is still there, it just means that it's kind of snuffed itself out because it's run out of wick, and you can always relight it because the energy is still within the candle. Another thing to consider as well, because this happened to me once, was the wick had actually, it wasn't a big enough wick in the candle I had. It was quite a big candle, and actually when the wick ran out, there was no more wick underneath. So even though I was digging and digging and digging, I was like, there's no more wick. So that actually was, meant that the candle was faulty. So that doesn't mean your spell has failed. So what you need to do at this point is do a little bit of common sense work. So what I do, and this is just something this isn't something anyone taught me, guys, this is something I do. If I get to the point where I know a candle is faulty, there's two things I need to figure out at this point. Firstly, I need to figure out, has the spell been completely freed? Because technically the wick ran out, so logically, when your candle is finished, even if it burned all the way through, when the wick runs out, that's the spell done, usually. So what you want to do, if the candle is only burned part way but the wick has run out, is feel the candle's energy. So put your hands on the candle or around it and concentrate on the candle for a moment. Can you feel that crackly buzz of energy inside it? If so, your spell has not been freed, which means half the energy and all your intent is still there in the candle, locked within it. And as it's a faulty candle, it's not going anywhere, which means it is a spell failure, so you need to recast. If you feel the candle, however, and there is no energy in it, you can't feel anything, then all the energy has been released in time, and it doesn't matter that the candle was faulty. You can't obviously do a wax reading, but you can still read the flame and give a divination on what you saw and what happened. And if it is for someone else, guys, just be honest and just say, look, the candle was faulty, but I felt the candle, there's no energy left in it, so the spell has been freed, but I can't give you a wax divination, but I can give you a flame divination, and this is what I saw, and then provide all that information instead. There's no reason you can't do that, guys. If, however, the candle was not faulty and you can't figure out any logical reason why it went out, the first thing I would do, especially if I feel energy still in the candle, is I would relight it. So I always relight, and when I relight, I reaffirm my intent as well. So this is where keeping a copy of your spell, your petition, is important, so you can reread it and put intent back into the candle and then just light. If the candle repeatedly keeps going out over and over and over, your spell's failed. There's no point in relighting it and lying, because you're not doing yourself any favors, guys. There's no point in relighting it over and over just to get it to burn down and then go, oh, it's finished, because actually no, there was no energy left in it. Whoever or whatever has destroyed your spell, that energy no longer exists, therefore your spell just is not going to work. Sorry guys, I have to be blunt with you there. If the candle's repeatedly going out, your spell has failed, so you do need to recast. But you may need to do some divination first to figure out why it failed. So divination, your best friend, honestly. So reasons that your candle might go out and your spell has failed. So some of them include what I've mentioned already, obstacles and blockages. So, things like the person's life has changed or something fundamentally is different that has altered the spell or affected it in some way. Another possibility is protections that were so powerful they've just completely obliterated your spell. Another one is another practitioner working against you. So curses, hexes, negative work, the evil eye, that kind of stuff. Either aimed at you or aimed at whatever target the spell is for. Either way, that's quite serious. The most obvious one, guys, and I hate to say it, but it is true, is when somebody is actively working against you. So a practitioner out there that, some evil person doesn't want you to be successful in whatever you are doing. So they have actively done work against you, in which case you're going to stop what you're doing, don't recast or anything. You need to get rid of whatever they've done on you first, figure out all that, do divination, do all the cleansing and everything, and get yourself clear first before you come at the situation again. And then even then, I would still say do divination and make sure that everything has been removed, that you're completely clear of whatever they've done. Maybe even try and figure out who it is as well, who's blocking you and why. And I've had a number of situations that this has happened to me on, guys. I mean, I've mentioned a couple of times now, I'm moving house, I'm packing all boxes at the moment. And one of the biggest things that has happened to me is I've had a couple of people actively try and stop me moving house. And it's not because they're, they're nasty, horrible people. This is actually somebody that cares about me. The reason that this kind of work was done to stop me selling my house and moving was because out of fear, they're scared of losing me. And they don't want me to leave the area I live in because they're worried that they'll never see me again. So they're blocking me for selfish reasons, but they're not blocking me to hurt me. They're blocking it to help themselves because they feel like they're going to lose me. So again, divination, your best friend, you figure all this out. I actually undid a lot of what they did and deflected it back, and they got repercussions because of that. And it kind of taught them a lesson, but also it freed me to do blessing work, which actually got my house sold faster. And actually I'm moving, no matter what we do now, it's tough, everything's finalised. So again, so just think about that a little bit, guys. So moving on to the next thing. So if we have a flickering flame, so the difference between popping and crackling and flickering, and I'm going to tell you all three because people tend to lumber this in one and it's not. So if you've got a flickering flame, this is a sign that your spell is having trouble manifesting, and the results you get are probably going to be very unexpected. If you have a dancing flame is an indication that there is a battle of wills going on, especially if you've cast this on somebody. So this is aimed towards someone you know fancy, so it's a love spell, or you've done something negative towards someone, like a curse or something. This is a battle of wills. Dancing is a battle of wills, where your energy and their energy is battling it out. They're duking it out, and it's really going to come down to who's more powerful, you or them. So based on how the candle reacts once you see it dancing is going to depend on, you know, what the result is. So if it dances but then it goes straight and fine and tall, you won. Your battle, your will, your energy was more powerful and you've won. But if the candle starts to fail and struggle and shrink and the flame is small, chances are their will was more powerful than yours and they're winning, which means you might have to back up whatever you've done with more spell work or more intent in order to overcome their will, or, you know, to manifest what it is you're after. If your flame is crackling, popping, this is a sign of your spell being you're connecting with outside energies, meaning that there's some kind of spirits, guides, ancestors, totems, or angels that are trying to give you some message. Now, it could be to do with the target of the spell. Their guides and guardians are trying to give you a message, or it could be your own. So you will have to invite them into some form of divination, such as dreams, or, you know, to work with your pendulum or on a spirit board, or work with a black mirror in order to figure that out and gain symbolism. And then you need to read the symbolism from that in order to figure out what they're trying to tell you. And if they stick around as well, because, you know, just because it's popping and crackling doesn't actually mean that it's a positive being that's trying to interact with you. It could be a negative being that's come along and been attracted to this work. And actually you may need to be careful and watch out for that. So don't invite things into your dreams, into your space, if it's negative. You might need to say, I only invite positive spirits that are trying to give me messages into my dreams. If you are negative, I'm going to expel and banish you. So always put those kind of disclaimers on, you know, when you're talking or, you know, communing with any entities, just to be on the safe side. If your flame is normal, so if your flame is not doing anything specific, it's average size, nothing fancy, this is just a sign that your candle is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. The spell is going to work exactly as planned. Everything's going to go according to plan in the time frame that you probably envisioned, and that everything's all hunky-dory. But it's not a sign of fast, strong, powerful manifestation. It's just a sign it will manifest, and it'll manifest the way you want, but it's not going to manifest in a truly fantastic way, like if it was tall and bright. I suppose the last thing to talk to you about then is the 7-day jar candles, and of course smoke, and how that forms. So let's talk first of all about 7-day candle. So 7-day jar candles, or jar candles in general, obviously the clue in the title, 14-day, 24-day, 7-day, 6-day, they all have a certain amount of time they're supposed to burn for. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, if they burn quicker than the time frame they're supposed to, it's a sign of quick manifestation. If they burn for longer, it's a sign of slow manifestation. And you need to also watch and look at the glass. This is how you do divination on this one. You can still read the flame, but there's a lot more to it than that, because it's in a jar, it does more. So you need to be looking whether the glass is cloudy, so there's wax sticking to it all the way around. That obviously has some divination meaning. So that can mean that what you're asking for is actually shrouded in chaos and is actually cloaked in some way, so it's not going to turn out the way you want, and actually there's going to be a little bit of drama involved. If the jar breaks, shatters, or cracks, that's something you need to pay attention to. So there's two different versions to this. So if your spell is something very, very positive and the jar breaks, cracks, or explodes, that is a sign of a major clashing of energies, so someone actively working against you and blocking what you're doing. So again, more likely a spellcaster that's doing evil in work or intent towards you that you're going to have to look into. And it's definitely a spell failure as well if that happens, so you will definitely need to recast. If, however, you're doing a spell breaker, so you're trying to break someone else's curse or spell or hex or something along those lines, and the jar breaks, that's actually a good sign that you have successfully broken their spell ahead of time before the jar's finished as well. And if it explodes, that is definitely a sign that your spell has been so strong that it's just completely obliterated their spell. So that is all actually good signs, not negative signs to watch out for. Another thing I'd like to say at this moment in time as well when it comes to jar candles is looking at the soot and the smoke. So if you finish a 7-day jar candle, it's covered in black smoke, which I had one recently that did that. Ugh. That's actually negative signs as well. So that is a sign of toxic, horrible energy. So if you've cast this upon a person, their energy is toxic, negative, stagnant and bleh, and they actually need cleansing and healing and some deep work doing on them. It can also be a sign of their ill intent towards you. So if you know who's cast something negative towards you and you're trying to break it and the jar goes black, that's showing you that evil, toxic energy that you've been destroying with this spell. So that to me that'd be an indication that I need to do some serious cleansing work, not just on myself but my home, my property, my tools, my items, and just make sure that there's no energy anywhere in my house. And I may cast like a blessing spell of light and positive energy, and as long as that remains clear, then I would say that successfully I've removed all that toxic energy that was stuck. Especially if you're doing like healing work as well, and you're using healing candle work and you're working with the chakras and you're doing purging work and it ends up all black, that again means you need to continue, that you're not yet clear and you need to carry on. So you may need to do another 7-day candle, or you may need to do extra work, not just do a candle and hope for the best. Maybe do some ritualistic baths, do some smudging, do some meditation, work on some shadow aspects of yourself. So think a little bit about what it is the spell is, and match what's happened to the spell as well logically. So as I say, if you're using a 7-day jar candle and it breaks, but that spell was for breaking a negative spell on you, then that's good. It's literally smashed it. That's a positive sign. But if you're casting a love spell on, say, two people you're trying to draw together in a loving relationship, and the jar explodes or breaks, that's a negative sign that someone's trying to stop that and keep them apart. So just use your logic and your common sense a little bit when you're divining, is what I'm saying, guys. So the last thing I'm going to talk about now is the smoke. So there's a couple of ways you read this. So you read the way the smoke is blowing, and you also read the colour of it. So if your smoke is white and clear and clean looking and it's flowing quite nicely, this is a positive sign of manifestation. All the correct energies were involved, and it's a good positive omen towards your spell. If it's going a little bit, reddy kind of colour and looks a little bit toxic and it's giving off a funny smell, this is a sign that it's encountering some problems, it's struggling a little bit, and there's some energies it's trying to burn through in order to remove their influences on your spell. If the smoke is black, that is truly a bad sign, guys. If your candle is giving off loads of black smoke, that's a sign of negative influences, toxic energy, evil intent. It's a sign of stagnant, stale energy, and it's a sign of evil. So you most definitely will need to keep an eye on that, and again, apply that to whatever the spell is that you're doing, and think about it logically and what might be happening. Now let's look at the way the smoke might blow. So if your candle's producing a lot of smoke and it's wafting, if it's just rising up in a straight line, that is a sign of your energy being clear intent and focused on the goal. So meaning that even if it's black, the energy is still getting through and it's still going towards where it's supposed to go. However, the energy is damaged, tainted, or negative, or is encountering negativity that's going to impact your spell. So that's how you would read that. If the smoke is blowing towards the north direction of where your candle is sitting, this is a sign of wisdom, and it's a sign of clarity and understanding in the situation. So this would be a really good omen for if your spell was something to do with communication or reconciliation, because it means reaching an understanding or a compromise in some way, which is good. If your smoke is blowing towards the south, This is a sign of regeneration, it's a sign of healing, of purging, of transformation, and it's a sign that things are going to move. So it's a sign of movement. So that's good for a road opener, it's good for a spell of transformation, change, it's a good for if you're trying to gain a certain result or a certain outcome in a situation, so that's also a good sign. If it's blowing towards the east or flowing towards the east, there is energy that needs clearing, and there's some work that needs to be done, and you need to work on the situation more than what you have done. If the smoke rather is going towards the west, then this is a sign of emotional change and purification, and it's a sign of love and transcendence and transformation. So ultimately, you know, thinking logically about where the elements lie, so, you know, north is earth, south is fire, east is air, and west is water. You apply all the meanings of the elements to those based on the direction that the smoke is blowing, and that gives you extra form of divination that you can apply to your spell in order to figure it out. So again, if it was blowing in a direction that meant communication, clarity, understanding, wisdom, then that's fantastic for a good communication spell, or for reconciliation, or, you know, talking things out. It's also good for business deals as well, because it means you're on the ball and you're going to be able to make a good business deal. If it's blowing, you know, towards the west and you've done a love spell, that's really good, because, you know, obviously we know that's ruled by water, which is about devotion, love, commitment, so that's a good sign as well, and a good omen. So that is kind of how you read that, guys. Now, not every candle gives off smoke, in fact many of them don't, but for the odd one that does, that's an extra sign and symbol that you can take on board in order to do your divination, so you can utilize that in your reading. And that's all I've got for you today, guys. So thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed the video. And as I say, at a later date, I will do a video on how to read wax from a candle that's finished burning during a spell. But I hope for now this has given you some insights on how to read a flame, and for yourself do some divination on your own spells, or on spells you're doing for other people, in order to figure out how they're manifesting. So thanks again for watching. If you did enjoy it, please give me that thumbs up. It's the best way that you can support my channel. And if you're interested in watching future videos, please click that bell button so YouTube will tell you when my videos come out. I do upload every single Friday, guys, so you will always get a video Friday of every single week, and the only time I don't record is during Christmas or holidays, when, you know, I'm not here. And if you want to support me, you can follow me on all my various social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and I also have a Patreon account. So if you do want to support my humble little business, then thank you very much. I do appreciate each and every one of you. As always, guys, take care of yourselves, be good to each other, and I'll see you soon. Blessed be.